The Home Tech Podcast is made possible by our supporters. To learn more, go to HomeTech.fm/support.
This is the Home Tech Podcast for Friday, April 20th, 2018. From Denver, Colorado, I'm Jason Griffin.
From Sarasota, Florida, I'm Seth Johnson.
Seth, how you doing?
Good. It's that time of year, Jason.
Yeah, registration for CEDIA opening up. Actually open, officially, I guess, as of...
Can you believe that? Like, it's
today.
insane.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's coming right up in September. It's hard to believe. It's going to be... what is this going to be, our fourth... This be our fifth CEDIA as a show? I think it might be our fifth. I can't remember.
Yeah,
math is hard.
I don't know. Whatever it is, it's like minus one half for me because I had to leave last year at the last minute. Didn't get Friday or Saturday as planned, and got to come home, board up the house, and run out of town before hurricane hit. So, yeah, hopefully it looks like they're predicting this year to be more active than usual.
Wow.
So who knows? I might get a hurricane. I might not.
Scary. Yeah, well, we'll definitely keep our fingers crossed for you. I know that was a bummer for you to have to leave, and obviously, you know, the safety of your home and family was the top concern. But I do know that I speak for other members of the home tech community here when I say we missed having you there, and so we'll hope for a whole bunch of different reasons that you are not affected by a hurricane this year. Greg is joining us in the chat room. Actually, quite a few people in the chat room tonight. We appreciate everybody coming on. It's always more fun to do these shows when we have a whole bunch of people there contributing. So thank you for that, Greg. Greg Scott is asking us to plug his CEDIA course, and so we can try to do that. We'll need a little bit more information there from you, Greg. I can tell you, Seth, that I will be teaching a few courses this year as well. That has been officially confirmed, and pretty exciting. It'll be my first time doing that, so I'm looking forward to it.
A few, you say. That's more than one, and
that is more than one. That is good math.
Wow,
on your part.
All right,
there.
Well, that's exciting, Jason. So
yeah, it is. We're finalizing some of the details, but they'll obviously be revolving around service, and we'll have plenty of opportunities between now and then to plug more information. So for the professionals in the audience who are attending CEDIA, we'd love to have you there. And Greg's course is The Art of the Takeover Job, which, that's right, I do remember him telling me about that, and that does definitely sound like an interesting topic. I know that's a big challenge for a whole lot of the professionals out there, and should be an interesting course. Yeah,
I heard good things about that one last year, so go register for that. It sounds like a pretty good one for sure. Jason, let's jump into some home tech headlines. Comcast has announced it will offer the ability to include a Netflix subscription to new and existing Xfinity cable packages starting later this month. No details on pricing are available, and offers will vary depending on the market. But if you choose a plan with Netflix, any Netflix-related billing will be handled by Comcast, meaning only one bill for the customers. So one of those one neck to ring things.
Yep, there you go. I mean, I think these are these sort of partnerships. We're starting to see more of them. We talked about Hulu last week teaming up with Spotify, and now you've got this one. So I'm not sure what the business case is there and why they're compelled to do these things, but I guess good for the consumer. Speaking of these sort of partnerships, Hulu has discounted its HBO add-on from $15 per month down to just $5. Not certain how long this promotional price will remain in place, but a spokesperson told Variety that it's available now for a limited time. Coming fresh on the heels of Hulu Spotify bundle, this move suggests that the company is aiming to boost its subscriber base with package deals that are hard to resist. So there you have it.
That is a good deal. I mean, I pay for both HBO and Hulu. That sounds like a great deal.
It's a very good deal. I think I saw somebody worked out the math, and it was like, I think for the Hulu basic bundle plus this $5 HBO add-on was cheaper than HBO Now on its own. So interesting, but it does sound like it's a limited time offer.
Yep. Sorry to the UK guys. I think it's only in the US, but sorry.
Cue the sad sound effect.
Oh, hold on. I got one of those. There we go. After months of rumors, ESPN's standalone streaming service is finally launching. It's called ESPN Plus, and it's priced at $5 a month. You won't have access to ESPN's flagship show. Wow, that's a tough. You won't have access to ESPN's flagship show, Sports Center. Still got it wrong. Instead, ESPN Plus will have its own original programming, including shows that focus on news, scores, and other highlights about specific sports and leagues.
Yeah.
So, sports ball for $5 a month.
Sports ball. Go sports ball.
Like a goal field hockey.
Yeah. Right. Go sports team. No, I like it. I don't know that I'll be pulling the trigger on it, but if you're a real sports junkie, I don't consider myself one. I've got my teams and I can get enough of the coverage there, but does very much sound like a supplemental offering, not something to replace a traditional ESPN package or, ability to view it, but a nice add-on for those of you who are very much into sports and want to get a little bit more. Lutron Electronics has signed an agreement to acquire Ketra, makers of high-quality natural light solutions that emulate daylight in interior spaces. The acquisition makes Lutron a manufacturer of light sources / bulbs for the first time in its 57-year history, and the terms of the deal were not disclosed. So an interesting move. As they point out there, Lutron has always been, one of the main names that you think of when you think about lighting, but they've never been a manufacturer of light sources or bulbs. They've always done the drivers and the dimmers and the control solutions. So to see them making this move, I think is really interesting. And secondly, you don't hear a lot about Lutron making acquisitions. So interesting on a couple of levels.
Yeah. And Ketra is a great. I mean, if you haven't seen Ketra, I met them at CEDIA last year in the day or two I was there. They make an awesome product. It is really cool. So if you haven't seen it, get out there and check it out. I guess you're going to see a lot more of it now, but super high end, and it's kind of like a super high end Philips Hue bulb, right? And lighting strips and all sorts of stuff. So very cool manufacturer, very cool team to work with. I've worked with them on some of their integrations too. So Google is updating its educational focused AIY products with 2 new kits for 2018. A new voice kit that lets you build voice-controlled speaker, and a vision kit, which lets you build a camera that learns to recognize people and objects using AI powered by Google. The kits are $49 for voice and $89 for vision, and can be purchased on Target.com.
Yeah, I like this story. It's not a typical type of story that we talk about here on the show, but as a parent of young children who are growing up, I'm getting more into learning about what's available for STEM education. And, this story caught my eye because of that. I think it's cool to see companies encouraging, our younger generations to really get into science and technology. And this, I think, is a cool story to that end. AIY is a play, of course, on DIY, but then the AI is the artificial intelligence. So, I guess hats off to the marketing team there. A little bit of a stretch, but it works. Moving on here. Netflix first quarterly report for the 2018 financial year shows that it added 7.4 million subscribers, about 2 million of those here in the U.S. In the first 3 months. This is Netflix's second biggest quarter ever, and just enough to hit 125 million subscribers, quote, on the dot. So Netflix continuing to kill it. They're doing great.
Yeah, really. And speaking of streaming, we've got this new company here also in the U.S. Sorry, guys. That has been flying completely under the radar. Never heard of them. Streaming company Philo announced that it will be launching a new entertainment-focused, and hold your breath, Jason, sports-free over-the-top service for a low cost of $16 per month. Philo, which started as a university campus TV solution, which is kind of cool, will feature programming from A&E Networks, AMC, Discovery Communications, Scripps Networks, Interactive, and Viacom. So, of course, AMC, HGTV, IFC, Comedy Central, MTV, Nickelodeon are kind of the big names in that space. The company allows up to 3 active streams per account with multiple profiles on each account, and the ability to record unlimited content in the cloud for 30 days. Apps are now available on Roku, Google Play, and Apple TV. Pretty cool service.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't care about sports, it sounds like that's one of the ways they've been able to sort of keep that price down. I know licensing on sports, I clearly don't know a ton about how that works, but have to assume that tends to drive the price up. $16 per month is a crazy price point, so very, very low. Interested to know more about this. I'm going to dig into it a little bit. I got to admit, I hadn't even heard of it until this story came across. But it seems like they're doing some good things there, so worth taking a look at.
Yep. It also doesn't have your local channels, but they said they figured you'd get those some other way, like with an antenna.
Well,
you
get an antenna.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Cool. Best Buy will sell new TVs running Amazon's Fire TV Edition in an unusual partnership that will make the electronics retailer a third-party seller on Amazon for the first time. The surprise deal represents the online retail giant's latest move into physical stores. The companies have worked together in the past, the story notes, with Best Buy selling Amazon's Kindle and Alexa products. But as Bezos noted in a press release, this takes their partnership to a new level. So, I got to be honest, I don't know. It seems like they're making a big story out of maybe not such a big story, but I don't know if I'm missing something here. But I think the general takeaway is, to see Best Buy and Amazon working together, I would say is generally a good thing, and especially in light of all of the other sort of feuds you tend to hear about where companies like Amazon and Google start to go at it to the expense of the consumer. I think anytime you can see two companies that could very easily be perceived as just pure competitors coming together and working together, it's generally a good thing for consumers. So I give it 2 thumbs up.
Still not going to beat that TCL for $650, is it?
No, not a chance.
All right. A new supply chain report out of Taiwan suggests the HomePod sales have been lackluster. Namely, China Times claims that Apple has reduced its HomePod shipment forecast from 500,000 units to 200,000 units or less per month in the second quarter. And that's down from 500 in the first quarter. I don't know, that could be like market, like what they project as, during the first quarter. That's like the time of like gifts and that kind of thing. Like I wonder if that doesn't count for, just general dropping off each year. This is the first year it's been out, so it's kind of hard to say.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it is a big drop. I have no idea how those projections and stuff typically work. I guess really what's left out there, and the key question is, says it's reduced its HomePod shipment to 200,000 for the second quarter. Was there a previously set forecast for the second quarter? Right. Yeah. Because they don't say that. They just say, okay, in the second quarter, they're asking for 200,000. In the first quarter, they asked for 500,000. But like you said, Seth, that discrepancy might sound more dramatic than it actually is. It's a very good question.
Yeah, I wonder if it's seasonal. It's one of those things that happens each year. We know that the HomePod isn't like selling great, but I saw some report somewhere, we'll put a link in the show notes, that they'd gotten like 10% of the smart home speaker market. So that's pretty good for a first round product. It's better than I thought, honestly.
Yeah, so I saw that story, and actually we're going to talk about HomePod here just for a minute. We've actually got a great interview we want to get into. We didn't tease that at the beginning of the story, but a great interview we want to dive into here pretty quickly with Hubitat, a very interesting new product. So definitely stay tuned for that. However, Seth, coming back to your point, I do feel like where there's smoke, there's fire, right? And there was, I think, 4 or 5 different stories I saw this week that all revolved around the theme of HomePod's not doing great, right? Like, and they were all Bloomberg, KGI, reputable sources when it comes to Apple news. There was the one that you just cited where it said like during the first 10 weeks of sales, it got 10% of the smart speaker market. But that particular story, which I think was from Bloomberg, and we'll have all these up, HomeTech.fm/208, it said 3 weeks after the launch, I just pulled up a note I had, their sales had slipped to about 4% of the speaker market. So within a span of 3 weeks, it dropped significantly. KGI, Ming-Ching Kuo, who's like, By the way, did I pronounce that okay?
You got it. You nailed it, I think.
Nice. I've been practicing.
It's that beer you have right there.
It helps. He's making predictions, I think 2 to 2.5 million HomePods across all of 2018, where most other analysts predicted like around 10 million a year, right? So that's a dramatic difference. And so there's a lot of these stories coming across. The last one that we had queued up here is a story that says Apple will launch a lower priced version of 4 different products this year, including a few others, blah, 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 and a HomePod, right? So they are reportedly going to launch a lower priced HomePod this year. And this is according to a translated report from Taiwan's Economic Daily News via a Japanese blog, Mac Otakara. Man, I got some tough ones tonight.
You tried it, not me.
But these stories are essentially coming from overseas, where a lot of the manufacturing and supply chain and stuff like that is happening. And so when you're hearing it there, and you're hearing it from analysts here and reputable sources like Bloomberg, you just got to believe that it's not doing as well as Apple had hoped, and they are going to have to pivot and respond. And I personally wouldn't be surprised to see a lower price version of that come out this year at this point. Whether that was their original plan or not, I don't know. But at this point, I wouldn't be surprised to see it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, without really having more deep integrations with Siri and having Siri work better and maybe do more than one timer, like that I think that's the biggest holdup for HomePod, because there's really no other way to control it. You have to go through the app on the phone, which involves getting up the phone and pushing buttons on it, or you have to yell at Siri. And I think that's its biggest limitation right now. Siri is software. It's software both in the cloud and on the device, and that can be updated. So I'm optimistic in that, but I don't think that they should have launched the HomePod without updating Siri or adding skills to it. But hopefully we'll see that this year. They've got the WWDC coming up mid-year, and we'll know a little bit more about what they want to do with Siri integrations at that point. And hopefully we see something to add on to the HomePod, because without having that robust talking platform, I guess, voice platform, it's hard to say that it's a great product other than a decent sounding small speaker. And if you're in the market for a decent sounding small speaker, I don't think there's any one of them that's better than the HomePod. But I mean, that is 10% of that product, or 10% of what that product can be. And hopefully Apple sees that in the sales numbers and starts to really put some more effort. I don't think they're not. I think they are, but
of course,
hopefully we see something a little bit more come out of them with Siri in the next couple of months, hopefully.
Yep. Well, that will do it for our news this week. If you want to receive the top headlines from the world of home technology every week in your inbox, please take a moment to subscribe to our newsletter over at HomeTech.fm. Just look for the subscribe box over on the right-hand side. Seth, let's jump into a quick interview here. This is actually the first installment of a new interview series that we're going to be doing on the show moving forward, where we bring on some earlier stage companies, right, that are a little bit earlier in their process and bringing products to market and doing things in new and unique ways. And first, want to send a big shout out to Gavin Campbell, who's a supporter of the show and who we've had on in installment of the Project recently. And Gavin, thank you for pointing me in this direction. We had Patrick Stewart on from a company called Hubitat, and Patrick is the director of sales and marketing there. And they are a company doing pretty interesting things in terms of their approach, really focused on local processing, right, and solving this sort of cloud dependency that is really prevalent in a whole lot of solutions these days. And that's a problem that Hubitat is taking a hard look at and seeing if they can come at it a better way. And so, again, our first installment here of a startup showcase, and these are going to be shorter interviews than if you've listened to the show in the past and you've heard our interviews. These are going to be a little bit shorter and quicker, and opportunities again for these earlier stage companies to come on. Last comment I'll make here quickly before we jump into our interview with Patrick Stewart from Hubitat is if you're listening and you're either part of a startup or early stage company, or you know someone who is, or have a tip on a company that you think might be interesting for this startup showcase, definitely get in touch. Feedback at HomeTech.fm is a great way to do that. We'd love to hear from you. So without me rambling on anymore, let's go ahead and jump into our interview here with Patrick. Hey, Patrick, welcome to the show. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having me. It's good to be on your show. I'm a big fan. I've been listening to quite a few here recently.
Oh, great. Well, we appreciate that, and we're excited to have you on and get to learn a little bit more about Hubitat here. I think it's your approach to the market's pretty interesting, and I look forward to sharing that with our audience. But before we jump in to the specifics of that, why don't you give us a quick personal introduction and talk a little bit about your background?
Sure. Yeah. No, thanks. My background, I pretty much started in home automation right out of pretty much middle school. Not to date myself, but I got my first X10 system from, believe it or not, Radio Shack about 1989, and automated a clock. They had an alarm clock that could turn on a light so I could wake up to sunlight rather than, and I lived in Minnesota, the great north, where you only saw sun for like 5 hours a day in the winter. So, waking up for school, that was my start. And ever since then, it just became a passion for me. Got out of college, joined up with the Xerox Corporation from Purdue University, and worked in sales and analyst roles, and eventually found my way into printing. That's a whole nother story. But all along the ways, I kept buying houses and moving and all this type of stuff, and just kept incrementally adding a smart home and home automation stuff along the way, and ended up working with some dealers, and then SmartThings came along, started writing a bunch of code for that. Got to know a few folks that are now part of the Hubitat team, and long story short, Hubitat was formed to really kind of take home automation in a different way than what most of the cloud-based solutions that are out there are doing. And yeah, so it's been a lot of fun. It's exciting to have a 100% local. Everything executes without the need of the cloud. I've heard some people say it's impossible, but it's not. It actually was happening all the way back in 1989 when we didn't have the internet, and it's also happening now today in 2018.
Yeah, I noticed on your bio, you guys sent over some information. You're going to be a man after Seth's heart here. You've done some custom drivers for Control 4. And I don't know if you know this, but Control 4. Seth is does Control 4 drivers as well. So you guys got something in common there.
Yeah, I've written a few, some very custom integrations. Actually, wrote a couple custom integrations to tie SmartThings to Control 4 when SmartThings first launched. And it's been a lot of fun dabbling in both worlds. When I had my first Control 4 system installed, believe it or not, the dealer didn't really even know how to program it. So I actually had to show him how to program it. So, I got a crash course in their Composer Pro, and that was kind of fun. He was a great installer. He could run wires, but I was like, hey, I want it to, like, when my doorbell rings, I want to pause the TV and flash my lights. And he's like, no. And I'm like, yeah, no, it should be able to do that. So I had to walk him through it. So
it's more common than you might think. I've run into that. I mean, Control 4 makes it really easy to do the drag and drop configuration and programming. But most guys I know don't even go to that programming tab on the far right. They'll stay away from it unless they have to do something really crazy. And even then, it's just not often that they have to. So
and then I cracked open. I saw what the Lou code was, and I said, what the heck, I can write my own stuff. And a couple people contacted me various places and said, hey, do you think you could do this? And I was like, sure, why not?
Absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about Hubitat. This is a local controlled system that can connect to home automation devices. Go ahead and tell us a couple of things that it will talk to right out of the box.
Yeah, so we're a standards-based platform. So we have a full stack Zigbee and Z-Wave radio. We have a full LAN connection. So anything on your local network we can connect to. So out of the box, we'll connect with pretty much every Zigbee and Z-Wave device out there, unless it's got some sort of custom thing that we have to then write a custom driver for it. But for the most part, those standard radio-based devices work just fine. One of the key things that we shipped with was a fully integrated SmartBridge Pro Lutron integration. So if you've got the SmartBridge Pro, not the regular one, you can actually connect via Telenet, believe it or not, and we'll get all of your device statuses and connect to it in pretty much near real time. So that was a big step for us. You see that in the Control 4 and the higher end Crestron type integrations, but to see that kind of low level network connection was it's kind of unheard of in the DIY space. So we have that. We just launched our native Hue Bridge integration, so we can bring all of the Zigbee Lightlink stuff that you might have hooked up to Hue. We just launched our IFTTT channel, so you can now connect pretty much anything through IFTTT. I know that kind of speaks a little bit of opposite of what a local only type solution works, but we knew that IFTTT right out of the gate would then bridge a lot of the other connectivity options for people.
Yeah. So zero in on that a little bit, because you hit on it before and we sort of moved past it, but I want to make sure to really drive that home. The unique sort of selling proposition of Hubitat is the local processing, right? I mean, tell the listeners about that. What do you guys think is important about, what gave you guys the impetus to go out there and do it? And how do you think it benefits the customer?
Yeah, so Hubitat was formed by a bunch of former SmartThings users that we wrote. In fact, our founder Bruce Ravenel wrote Rule Machine, which was a really well received rules engine to the SmartThings community. And the reality is that got very popular and then got blamed for a lot of the stability challenges that platform had. And Bruce kind of said, well, couldn't we do this locally? And so another couple people got involved, and lo and behold, we wrote basically an entire wrapper around Rule Machine and made an entire home automation platform that ran on local hardware rather than needing, sophisticated cloud infrastructure. And the benefit of that is, if you're used to using cloud-based home automation platforms, you get that half a second to almost 2 second latency. For stuff to have to go round trip from the cloud back down. And with Hubitat, since it's all local and it's really fast, you get near real time interaction with your devices. And that was one of our main goals, was to have that almost instant, like if you flip a switch, the light should turn on, right? If you have a motion sensor, as soon as that motion sensor trips it, or a contact sensor, it should just turn on. Trying to eliminate that lag is almost impossible with cloud-based solutions. And that was one of our biggest challenges, was to make sure that we could replicate all of the features and functionalities that we see in some of those products that are out there, be able to port a lot of that code over, because we all came from the community and we wanted to be able to replicate our code and make that stuff work. And I think that's pretty unique. That was a big challenge. And then keep the price point in the same line. And that was tough, but it's exciting to see this product launch and see where we're at here, because got a lot of customers who are loving it.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Glad to hear. What is the price point, by the way?
Our retail price is $149. We've got a launch special still going on that's selling right now on the website for $99 plus shipping. So you can grab one now. I don't know how long we're going to keep that pricing going. So
got it. And you guys are shipping now?
We are shipping. Yeah, we've been actually shipping since the end of January, believe it or not. So great.
Very cool. So, who would you say is like an ideal customer for you? If I'm listening and I'm wondering if this is a good fit for me versus something like a SmartThings or one of these more cloud-based solutions, how do you guys think about that?
Yeah. So if you've tackled home automation before, if you're a DIYer, you like tinkering, you like trying to push the boundaries and are constantly adding devices, those are our customers. We love them. Of course, if you're new to home automation, we'll certainly try to help you as well and get you going. But if you've been challenged with some of the frustrations of your internet going out or the service going down at the most inconvenient times when you want it to work, or you've got that spouse or significant other that starts to question whether or not it really should be part of the house or not, I can speak from experience. I've got one of those. And so, those are the folks that we look for right now is the ones that have experienced some pain, have pretty robust systems. some of our early adopters have hundreds of devices connected to their systems and really pushing the limits of our hardware. And it's exciting to see that. We want to find an upper limit to what we can handle, and we really haven't found it yet. I mean, certainly, you can run into some slowdowns here when you're trying to process tons of complex rules, but frankly, it's very rare to have that kind of impact for more than a second or two. So, yeah, the people that really want to push that boundary, really want to be in the DIY, but ultimately want to buy something that, just out of the box, you can start pairing up devices and getting things to work.
Right. It as a tinker, I would, and a developer and a guy who, an integrator at heart, I have to ask this question. Do you have like some kind of API that if a custom device comes along that isn't really in this, can I write to that?
Yeah. Actually, it's so we, because of our origins on the all the Groovy code that we wrote in the SmartThings community, we can take that same code and port it right over. So we've got a full developer integration, so you can write your own custom apps, which gives you a user interface that can expose custom HTML endpoints. So you can literally roll your own customized API if you want to, all the way down to your own custom drivers. So we give you low-level access to Zigbee and Z-Wave protocols, as well as full LAN stacks. So if you want to send an HTTP request to a local device or even a cloud-based device, or if you want to go through a full OAuth 2 authentication process, because our hub runs everything from the administration interface is web-based. So anything you can do web-based, we can connect.
Very nice.
Got it. Very cool. So you mentioned custom apps there. Is that how users generally interact? I mean, what is sort of the default mode of interacting? Is there an app that it comes with, or are people doing more custom stuff? How does that work?
Yeah, so out of the box, we decided not to ship with a mobile app. We will have a mobile app down the line here, but we decided that we would do everything web-based, and so it's we have in the app itself, we have 15 built-in apps. So one of them is Roll Machine, but we have Hubitat Safety Monitor, which allows you to monitor and notify yourself if certain things are happening. If you've got a water leak, or you left a door open while it was in away mode, kind of like a pseudo security system there. We've got so you can tie in a smoke detector and detect that types of stuff too. We also have, and we just released this last week, Hubitat Dashboard. And Dashboard allows you to create HTML dashboards that work on a phone, on a tablet, or even on your desktop. You don't have to install an app, but you can actually design your dashboard for its purpose. So if it wants to sit on a phone with only a few devices connected, or you want a full dashboard that shows you all your batteries or all your water sensors or what have you, you can even do what I call guest mode, where you can actually mark it as read-only. So you can hand it to, let's say you've got a vacation rental or a cabin or someplace else. You can just send them a link, basically, and they can access parts of your house that you want to give them access to. You don't have to have them install an app. You don't have to, have them give all their permissions to that company. With all the controversy with Facebook and all those types of things, we think just a web page that you can load and do what you need to do, get in and get out. That kind of custom dashboard is a pretty neat feature.
Right. Sounds like a pretty mature product for a startup launch, but man, I got to say it's pretty impressive, especially for the price of $149 and even better the launch price of $99. Say go out and get one of those. If somebody's interested in Hubitat, where would you say they should go to find out more?
Sure. Well, obviously, Hubitat.com is our website. We launched that at the end of January, and that's got increasing number of information, a lot of videos on our YouTube channel that will show you what's going on with Hubitat and all the cool new features that we're adding. But most importantly, we launched our community website for our users, and you can access that at community.hubitat.com. And that's a great place to ask questions. Really, I mean, I can answer a lot of the questions, but there's nothing like having our own users answer those questions. And that community has been growing like wildfire, and it's great to see all of our users, customers, and future customers asking all kinds of questions and getting answers and getting user-to-user support. So that's a great place to find out more.
All right. Well, that's great. Sounds like you guys are doing great things for the smart home, and we appreciate you taking the time to come on, and wish you all the best moving forward. Thanks, Patrick.
I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
All right. Take care.
All right. Well, that wraps up the interview with Hubitat's Patrick Stewart. Want to thank him for coming on the show. It's a very interesting conversation that we had with him, both before and after the interview, actually.
Yeah.
I think we talked a little, probably about 30 more minutes.
You and Patrick are gonna, I think, be good friends. A lot of similar history there. You guys both are, been immersed for a long time in that Control 4 sort of world, and it was really really funny to hear you guys talk about some of that. But nothing of material there as far as what the product is and everything. But Patrick, just frankly, I think the takeaway there is a guy that's definitely been around, knows the dynamic, and is clearly looking. Their product is looking at the market, I should say, from a different angle. And I thought it was cool, man. I really am excited about it, and hope they can do great things.
Yep, the same here. It looks like a really cool product, a new hub for the marketplace, right? But also, like if you go to the website and look at it, it looks very easy to use and very straightforward. But this thing has layers to it. It's like an onion. So you can really get down deep and low and do some really deep tinkering with it, which is great. So
and what I thought was really cool is like you hear, well, not as much now, but like, years ago when we started doing the show, and that sounds really weird to say, by the way, but years ago when we started doing the show, like hubs and hubs and hubs, like they were coming out, literally one every couple of weeks or one every month. You started to get like hub fatigue. They're like all the same. But this one genuinely feels a little bit different. I think their focus on local control and breaking that cloud dependence, while it may sound simple, is probably, I have to imagine, a very difficult thing to execute on. And there's a lot of value there for a lot of different reasons, whether it's, privacy or just reliability or whatever it is. Like that may appeal to a lot of people. And so I think, they're starting with the enthusiasts. It'll be interesting to see how they do there. And ultimately, I think the big test for them will be getting a product that is more mainstream, assuming that's their goal, of course. But anyways, a cool approach. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Jason, got a pretty cool pick of the week this week.
All right. I'm doing the thing we've been doing for a few weeks, so I haven't looked at this yet, and I'll go ahead and open it up here and give it a second to load. Okay, at Ring, my local Home Depot is advertising HomeKit support.
Yeah, so we've been hearing about Ring wanting to do their HomeKit support for their doorbells for quite some time.
Yes, we have.
And Ring has been saying, it's coming for quite some time. But now it looks like Home Depot may have accidentally put up some kind of display with the HomeKit logo on it. So it may be sooner than we think, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. All right. You got to imagine this display was approved, at somewhere along the chain. And like you said, perhaps somebody at some Home Depot just jumped the gun and put it up before they had the green light. So...
yeah, that's what it looks like. It looks like they did jump the gun because Ring did reply to this guy and said, "Thank you for letting us know, Scott. HomeKit is in the works for the Ring Pro, but isn't quite ready yet. We'll reach out to
the correct parties to get this fixed. We'll reach out to the correct parties to get this fixed." In other words, some Home Depot manager somewhere got a very bad phone call.
Yep, and there's one of our guys here in the Slack channel tonight, in the Home Tech Live, has it's AW Rayner. He's given us a little code that will get you $40 off any one of the doorbell products. So we'll put the link we'll put that in the show notes. So HomeTech.fm/208. We'll put the code in there. I think there it is. I found it. DS40 off. But we'll put it in there so you can copy and paste it right into Ring. That's a pretty good deal because you can get the version 1 for $60, and for $60, why not?
All right, well, finally, let's move on here to the mailbag. We're going to jump back into the mailbag this week, and we got a great one from a gentleman named Win. Win says, "Hi there, guys. I know you have spoken a fair amount now recently about options with new TVs, and I agree. What an interesting time for buying new TVs. The one thing I would love to hear," says Win, "from the two of you is the concept of a projector versus a TV. Would you be able to have a quick splurge on why it's not an option? Or if it is an option, what are the factors? Loving the show, guys. Keep it up. So Win, thank you so much for taking the time to reach out and provide that feedback. I think it's a fantastic idea. Seth and I talked about it as soon as the message came in, and we've definitely added it to our queue. So look for a more in-depth conversation around this here in the coming weeks. I look forward to that. Frankly, it's I personally don't have a great home for a projector, and I'll talk briefly about the reasons why I believe that. But so it is something that I admittedly I don't think about as much as I used to when I was in the field as an integrator, for example. But I think it is a great point, and there are a lot of great options out there, and it would be fun, Seth, for us to do a show where we really sort of pick that apart and talk about what some of those technologies are and what some of the considerations would be for a not only deciding, is a TV better or is a projector better, and then B, if you do decide that a projector is better, like what are the different technologies and price points, and how do you sort of go through that decision process?
Right. I think that'd be a great conversation. This came up quite a bit when I was an integrator. I'm not sure about you. Did you run into this very often where a client wants like a 60-inch screen in the living room, and then it goes to being like, no, I want a giant projector in here. Let's figure out how to make it work.
Yeah. Generally, and it typically, I'll be interested to hear your perspective, Seth. You and I, frankly, surprisingly, have had a specific conversation about this that I can remember. But for me, it's largely just a question of like the size of the room and the size of the screen that the room is able to support. And so what I've used to tell clients is, generally speaking, TVs have gotten pretty darn good. And unless you're looking to do something like bigger than maybe a 75 or even, there's 85-inch TVs out there now that can be had for a fairly reasonable price. Once you get up over that 85-inch range, if you need a bigger screen than that, then by all means, like look at a projector. Because if you start looking, there are TVs out there that are like, 100 inches or 120 inches, but they are wildly expensive. And so, that's one option. And then the other one is like with a projector, assuming you have the budget to do like a drop down screen or some sort of concealed screen that can be out of the way when it's not in use. Projectors and screens, two-piece projection as it's called, can be a great option. But definitely for me, it's largely a function of the size of the room. AKA the size of the screen,
and
really.
And probably the person's lifestyle, because I don't think a projector would work very well in my house with the people living here. It might work for me, but not for other people living in the house.
And what do you mean by that specifically, though?
I don't need to go any deeper into that, but I'm just saying that it might not be the best option.
Are you literally like? Are you talking about like kids and like the potential?
Oh no, I'm saying a giant roll down screen. My wife would not appreciate that.
All right, the spouse acceptance factor. I get
exactly.
It. Yeah, totally. No, it's projection's great for the right application, and if you've got the space to do a projector and really fill up a wall with video, 100 inches or more or whatever. They're awesome. It's just a lot of people don't have that. I don't have a room. Interestingly, the room that I sit here and record in is a guest suite down in the basement that really is functioning right now almost strictly as my office. Someday we'd like to make this like maybe a little bonus room, gaming room type of thing. And this room is probably right on the verge of being able to do a projector, assuming I got something that had like a short enough throw lens where it could really fill up the wall. Like you got to calculate all that throw distance and all of that. So, we'll think about that. I'll probably go with the TV. Some other considerations with projection is you often don't have the wires where you need them, right? And with TVs, often you do. So there's wiring. And there's also one other high level point we haven't touched on. And again, I look forward to jumping into this in more detail, but ambient brightness in the room is more of an issue with projection generally. Now, projectors can get very bright, and of course you could put blinds up and shades or whatever to control that light, but generally speaking, if you don't have a room where you have good control over the light, then it's a bigger factor, and it can make using projection a little bit difficult other than at night. So those are all some of the high level bullet points that jump to the top of my mind when I think about that.
Yeah, I would say it just depends on also when you watch TV. Like if you're away from home during the day, that ambient light might not be a big issue. But yeah, if you're trying to watch a sports game over the weekend and you turn on the projector, and it's going to be pretty washed out unless you have a super bright one and one of those screens that like one of those screens that does the high contrast ambient light rejection type thing.
Symphony Hi-Fi in the chat room right now is pointing that out. Screen Innovations has ALR, which is that ambient light rejection set that you're talking about. Very, very cool technology. Don't remember quite how that stacks up price-wise, but when you start talking about good projection screens, like that can easily cost as much as it would cost you to buy a nice large TV, and then you've still got to buy the projector, right? So two-piece projection can be done on a budget, but to do it well on a budget is much tougher than it is to do TV well on a budget.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you do come up to a point of like diminishing returns. Like if somebody really wants to have that 140-inch screen, like you're going to say, okay, maybe the projector is the way to go here, and any amount of money that you could throw at a projector and a screen to fit the space is probably going to be less than the 140-inch 4K TV, right? So, or video wall, or any one of those things. So there's definitely budget trade-offs that you kind of have to like take a look at. And he's putting prices there in the chat. 110 inch is about $2,000, I guess we can say, which is pretty good, I think. If that's your screen, that'll be your screen, the projector you'll have sitting in the background, and be able to swap out. And so that's pretty good.
There you go. So anyways, we will jump into that in much more detail here in the coming weeks, and we can get into some of the different technologies that drive projection. There's laser projection is kind of one of the new things, and there's a lot going on there. It's a really interesting space. So Wynn, thank you again for reaching out and for listening to the show. We really appreciate it. If you're listening and have any feedback that you'd like to send us, we would love to hear it. We read all of those and would enjoy reading them on air and having a little conversation about it. So our email address, once again, is feedback@HomeTech.fm. That's feedback@HomeTech.fm, and we would love to hear from you.
Absolutely. You can listen to us live, usually on Wednesdays around 7 to 7:30. Check out HomeTech.fm/live to learn more, or follow us at HomeTech Podcast on Twitter. You'll see our various announcements about when we're going to live, but it's usually Wednesday nights around 7:30.
Yeah. Yep. Do our best to keep that consistent, but doesn't always happen. So stay tuned on Twitter if you're interested at HomeTech Podcast. So very last thing we want to do here, like we always do, is send a big thank you out to our supporters. If you are interested in learning more about how you can support our efforts here at the show to bring you more episodes like this one, head on over to HomeTech.fm/support. Once again, that is HomeTech.fm/support. And that's where you can learn about how you can contribute to our efforts here at the podcast for as little as $1 a month. And I always do like to mention that even at that $1 level, we'll send you an invite to the Hub, which is our private Slack channel. Great community full of home tech enthusiasts who are in there on a daily basis having great conversations. So we'd love to have you.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I think that wraps up the show this week. Jason, I'll talk to you next week.
All right. Sounds good, Seth. Take care.